We know how vital it is for both our staff and our residents to be cared for with respect, professionalism, and safety in mind at all times. The well-being of all who enter our facility is paramount now more than ever. No one knows this more than someone who has been through it all. Someone who has seen the best, the worst, and the bizarre within healthcare. Someone who has worked every position in a nursing facility through the course of her career. From housekeeping to activities director, from dietary to RN. She's the true MVP of healthcare. A legend. And now, she is the resident council president with such a wealth of knowledge, experience, and colorful anecdotes from both working and living in this environment. We hoped she would be the star of our video. When asked, she replied,
"What's in it for me?"
Okay, so her willingness wasn't immediate, and she had a few requests. As you'll come to find out, she is hard candy to swallow, but always honest, and once unwrapped, quite sweet.
You will not ask my age. I will have top billing in the credits, and I will be given an extra bingo card for the next 3 games.
Anything else?
Yes. I must be shot with a glimmer-glass filter at all times. Soften my edges. Erase a few decades. Oh, sweetie. I'm just kidding with you. Hard candy? All right, Mr. DeMille. I'm ready for my close-up. Welcome to Betty's Better Do's and Better Don'ts in Healthcare. Through my eventful experiences over the years, I know what you better do and what you better don't do to ensure the best care for your residents and colleagues. Follow these best practices, and you too can claim your spot alongside me as healthcare royalty. It took me decades and all this silver hair to learn all this. Let me spare you the stress and lead you to success. My first fear when moving into a nursing facility was these unforgiving fluorescent lights. The second was my fear of losing my rights and privacy. While you may try your best to make a resident feel at home, we don't always know how our freedoms will be affected within this new and often unfamiliar environment. As a healthcare worker, facilities often feel familiar. There's hand sanitizer at every turn and hallways full of resident rooms and nurses' stations. But this space is unfamiliar to new residents. This is their new home for short or long term, and their freedoms and privacy are more important than ever. So residents' rights which should not be violated in any way are inalienable rights such as voting, assembly, speech, privacy, and personal liberty. Residents also have the right to refuse care and treatment. Additionally, it's your responsibility to familiarize yourself with a resident's rights and to watch for any signs that those rights have been violated. And a little tip you won't find in the employee manual that I can share from my days as an activities director: a resident's right to play bingo should never, under any circumstances, be violated. Bingo is serious business. Loss of privacy is another concern for those living in a nursing facility. As an employee in a healthcare facility, you'll be privy to private and sensitive knowledge of the resident's medical and personal circumstances, also known as Protected Health Information, or PHI. The rights of the residents to have this information kept private and not shared without their knowledge and consent is protected under a federal law known as HIPAA. HIPAA-protected information can sometimes be simple things such as a resident's birth date or where they live. It also includes sharing their medical, financial, or personal information with unauthorized parties, either verbally, in writing, or electronically. When discussing residents, always be cognizant of where you are, who might overhear, and who might see. Here are ways you may violate a resident's privacy or have their personal information compromised: sending unencrypted emails, not reviewing audit logs, using Dropbox to store PHI, sharing accounts and login info, and using unsecure email services to send PHI. Let's recap Betty's Better Do's and Better Don'ts of rights and privacy. Residents' rights. Do familiarize yourself with and respect residents' rights. Don't neglect and infringe upon those rights. HIPAA compliance. Do be cognizant of protected health information and keep it secure. Don't share PHI publicly or with unauthorized personnel, and don't subject PHI to unauthorized access due to neglect. Social media usage. Do keep residents' privacy and the reputation of the facility in mind when using social media. Don't share pictures or information about residents on social media without their permission, and don't post negative or degrading comments about the facility, its residents, or staff. Whether you're a resident or a healthcare worker, your rights and privacy are important and should be protected. Do y'all mind if I post you on my Insta? Smile! So you're new here. Welcome to the family. Oh, I've been dying to use one of those. They were left over from when I worked in admissions and planned a gender reveal party for our resident cat. Come to find out, she just had a sudden weight gain because a resident had been feeding her their Ensure. Needless to say, there wasn't a new feline admission that day, just an overly inflated ball of fur. As a new member of our family, there is a bit of housekeeping to get out of the way. Your corporate compliance and employee handbook is a vital resource for you. It's the set of policies and procedures the facility follows to maintain compliance with laws, rules, and regulations. Not following facility protocols can lead to disciplinary action up to and including termination. Don't throw it away. How else will you know how to follow the facility's policies and procedures? Also, have you completed your orientation forms? If not, meet with your HR manager to complete all your hiring paperwork ASAP. Okay, let's talk about the smoking policy. Smoking is allowed only at designated areas of the facility. Staff has designated smoking areas, and smoking must be 50 feet away from the building. Smoking materials must be kept and secured by nursing staff. Here are my better do's and better don'ts for smoking. Do complete smoking assessments upon admission or readmission, quarterly or with resident change in status. Report the smell of cigarette smoke in a resident room to nurse ASAP. Notify nurse if you notice a resident has difficulty holding their own cigarette. Don't allow residents to smoke with oxygen on or in undesignated areas. Customer service is a requirement when working in healthcare and caring for residents. First impressions last a long time. Here are my better do's and better don'ts of customer service. Do greet every resident with a smile. Treat residents with respect and be aware of the tone of your voice when speaking. Don't argue with a resident or family member. The quality of our customer service is important, but the quality of care and service within our facility is also paramount. QAPI, or Quality Assurance Performance Improvement, is how our facility strives to improve and enhance the care and service for all its residents. Facility leadership monitors trends and system breakdowns to devise a plan for performance improvement. The QAPI team meets to discuss these issues and evaluates the facility's interventions until the problem is resolved. Do be sure to report your observations to your supervisor. They value your input. You made it to the end of the video and gave me another chance to use one of these, so thank you. Oh, kitty, 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 kitty. For both residents and staff, our facility is a busy place with a lot of close interaction. Therefore, personal wellness and infection control are simple but effective ways to keep everyone safe and thriving. Hand washing is the single most effective precaution to prevent spread of infection when done properly. However, you'd be surprised at the number of people who don't do it properly. When I worked in dietary, a member of my staff didn't follow proper hand washing procedures and Well, I'll spare you the details. But we had to permanently remove my famous chicken poppy seed casserole from the menu. It was a true tragedy that could have been avoided with these simple steps. Use warm water and soap, and thoroughly wash your hands for 20 seconds. The timer starts when you begin rubbing the soap into your hands. And go! 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Do wash your hands before and after patient contact, before putting on gloves and after taking them off, after touching blood, bodily substances, contaminated patient care equipment, broken skin or mucous membranes, even if you're wearing gloves, and between different procedures on the same patient, after using the restroom, and before food preparation. Don't substitute hand washing for ABHR gel when hands are visibly soiled. Phew, that's a lot, but it's really important. 18 Mississippi, 19 Mississippi, 20 Mississippi. Easy as pie. Oh, I gotta stop making food references. It's making me hungry. Use of personal protective equipment is required to maintain the standards of infection control practices. PPE prevents the spread of infection to you and other residents. Types of PPE include face mask or respirator, goggles or eye protection, gloves and gowns. The type of PPE used will depend on the type of infection, so see a nurse before entering an isolation room. The same rules apply for clinical hazards such as bloodborne pathogens. Do follow PPE practices as required by this facility. Wear appropriate PPE as per nursing instruction and discard PPE in appropriate containers. Don't reuse PPE or use PPE if broken or damaged. Facilities follow CDC guidelines to prevent the spread of COVID-19, but those guidelines and facility policies are constantly changing. So do attend COVID-19 in-services to stay up to date on changes in facility protocols, follow facility policy at all times, and ask questions for clarification. Don't assume policy has not changed if you haven't worked for a while. Do complete N95 fit testing and medical questionnaire to determine the N95 that is most appropriate for you to provide maximum protection. Always dispose used masks in appropriate containers. Don't store N95 masks in your bags or use broken, damaged, or visibly soiled masks. Ooh, did you hear that? My stomach is growling. PPE alone can't always prevent the contraction and spread of viruses, so these vaccinations are offered, encouraged, and available at our facility. Simply see the infection control nurse.
So, Betty, what'll it be?
Give me all 3. In a skilled nursing environment, employees must be aware of the potential presence of tuberculosis. Most cases are of latent TB, which does not carry with it any symptoms and cannot spread the disease. However, the following are potential signs of a TB infection: cough for more than 3 weeks, sweating at night, extreme tiredness, fever, weight loss, and no appetite. Testing requires a simple skin test, but a chest X-ray may also be necessary. For treatment, isolation and prescription medication for 6 to 12 months may be necessary for anyone who can transmit active TB. More information is available online at cdc.gov/TB. Let's take 5 and we'll pick it up again once these calories kick in. When you're working this closely with residents and your fellow staff, your interactions need to be appropriate and respectful. Let's begin with staff interactions. I'm here with Jimmy and Josie, and we're going to play a game to see how well they have reviewed their employee handbook. And don't worry, we're going to make this quick, because I am not missing bingo. Now, sexual harassment in the workplace is blank.
Bad.
Yes, but we were looking for never appropriate. What do you do if someone is sexually harassing you?
Tell them to stop right away.
Yes, and?
Don't allow the behavior to continue and report it to a supervisor immediately. When possible, document dates and specifics. Half point to Josie.
Yes.
If harassment is coming from an immediate supervisor, you should
Report the conduct to a higher level employee.
Or contact the corporate compliance hotline.
ding ding! Half point to each. Now, what is considered harassment? This question actually has multiple answers, so Jimmy, you first, and extra points if you provide an example.
Unwanted jokes. Hey, Josie. Why'd the chicken cross the road? He saw you and he wanted to.
Well, my response to that is rude gestures.
Correct. Points for both. Now, for the video round, I'm going to show you a video and you must identify the type of harassment.
Touching or unwanted bodily contact.
Ding ding!
Interfering with a coworker's ability to move.
Ding ding!
Repeated requests for date after being told no. Or flirting.
Ding ding! We'll accept both answers.
Being sent texts, emails, social media that are sexual in nature.
Yes, all of that is correct. Now, the score stands at, well, I think you're tied. So, final question for the win. What is considered violence and how should it be handled? TikTok, people, TikTok! Any physical assault, threatening behavior, or verbal abuse in the workplace is unacceptable and may be a crime. If you observe any violent behavior, immediately contact your supervisor. Oh, I'm so sorry. We are out of time. Nobody wins. But I do hope you have learned something. Now I gotta go. It's time for bingo.
When dealing with residents, abuse is a very serious matter and should never be taken lightly. Physical abuse includes hitting, pushing, slapping, pinching, force feeding, and physical restraint. Do inform residents of what you're going to do and the type of care being provided. Pay attention to the comfort and well-being of the residents. Don't rush a resident while care is being provided, and don't continue or force care if the resident is refusing or resistant. When a resident is resistant, notify a nurse or immediate supervisor right away. Verbal aggression, intimidation, threats, and humiliation are forms of mental and psychological abuse. Do speak and treat residents with respect and always maintain a professional attitude. Be aware of your tone of voice. Speak slowly and clearly to avoid miscommunication. Don't mock, imitate, or use terms of endearment when speaking to a resident. Call residents by their preferred name. Medication abuse can include withholding medication, over-medicating, or using medication in ways not prescribed by the physician. Neglect and abandonment can include failure to provide necessary physical or mental care to an elderly person, or desertion of an elderly person for whom you are responsible. Some residents exhibit signs of self-neglect that include any behavior that, intentionally or unintentionally, threatens their health or safety. Never ignore this behavior. Always notify a supervisor and stay with a resident until they're cared for. Do follow the resident's plan of care and always be attentive to a resident's needs. Don't neglect or intentionally isolate a resident in need. Lastly, misappropriation of property can include theft of cash or personal items, forced contracts, or misuse of income or other financial resources. Do respect your residents' personal property and notify a supervisor of residents' valuables to ensure their items are inventoried. Don't accept any gifts or rewards or use or borrow a resident's belongings for personal use. Always immediately inform your supervisor if you observe abuse, if a resident, their family member, or visitor informs you of abuse, or if you suspect abuse is occurring. If your concerns are not addressed, you can anonymously report suspected abuse to the Corporate Compliance Hotline. Well, that's it for this topic, and I'm sure you're dying to know how bingo went. Well, I lost. Again. To my arch nemesis Irene. Not saying I will, but I'm tempted to misplace her hearing aids before our next game. Oh, I'm just kidding. That's a don't. Oh, so Bobby, our maintenance guy, took the day off after a little mishap with a birthday cake. So I'm filling in. And look! His uniform fits me perfectly. Let me replace this fire extinguisher, then we'll get started. It's Hazel's 87th birthday today, so we're going to be prepared for anything. When you work in a facility like this, you have to be prepared for any emergency. These can include fire, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, energy or utility outages, hazardous material spills, terrorism, or even a hit and run by a hungry resident in a motorized scooter. This facility has an emergency preparedness plan and material safety data sheets for every emergency. Binders for both are available in each unit and department office. Here you'll find information regarding potential hazards or chemicals used in the facility and how to work safely with them. It also shows how to address and administer first aid in the event of an accidental exposure. Do report an emergency to a supervisor. Call 911 when appropriate. Listen carefully to instructions and evacuate residents safely and calmly when directed. Familiarize yourself with and use the proper alarm codes for your facility. Don't panic. Instead, remain calm and follow this facility's emergency plan. Fire safety may seem obvious to everyone, but in the moment, you gotta be like Bobby and know the plan of action and execute it properly without hesitation. We're going to use yesterday's incident as an example. I'll be playing Bobby. Light up the cake! And action!
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Fire extinguishers are available throughout the facility, and fire alarm pull stations are strategically placed for easy access. Become familiar with exits and do not use elevators in a fire emergency. Always practice RACE. R-A-C-E. Rescue, remove. Alert, alarm. Confine, close. Extinguish, evacuate. Using a fire extinguisher. Pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep! And that's how it happened.
Wait! Was that my birthday cake?
Wasn't that eventful? Well, we hope your work days are never that hazardous. But we know things can happen when caring for your residents. So remember, you are responsible for ensuring your residents' safety and to prevent falls and other injuries. Do get to know your residents, follow their care plans, and ensure safety interventions are in place. Don't leave residents unattended in bathrooms, use another resident's wheelchair or walker, or use a Hoyer lift alone. Speaking of lifts, your facility may use Hoyer lifts or sit-to-stand lifts to transfer residents safely. Before using them, ensure they're working properly and always use lifts with at least 2 staff members. Hoyer pads should also be checked to ensure the correct size is used and there's no visible damage. When not using a lift, proper body mechanics is necessary when caring for residents or performing tasks in order to reduce your risk of a work-related injury. If you are hurt on the job, workers' compensation is a law that provides wage loss and medical benefits to employees who cannot work or who need medical care as a result of a work-related injury. Do report work-related injuries immediately to your supervisor, and don't continue to work until given proper clearance to do so. So be safe, be prepared, and take care of yourself and your residents. Also, if you're celebrating a birthday that requires nearly a century worth of candles, I suggest using these. Now, who wants to come sing happy birthday to Miss Hazel? By far my favorite job I've ever had while working in healthcare was my years spent as a nurse. I began as a CNA and worked my way up to RN. In that time, I learned a great deal about how to care for residents, beyond what you learn in school. It's like acting. You can say the lines and do the action, but the nuances of your performance make it award-worthy. For you working in this facility, the nuances of care is what really makes a difference. That's why when I was asked to do this role, I didn't hesitate. Okay, that's a lie. I wasn't eager to do it, but I was actually an actress for a few years after I got out of healthcare. And I thought my role as scared librarian number 4 in Indiana Holmes, The Curse of the Haunted Encyclopedia, would be my last. Have you seen it? Well, it was a straight-to-VHS educational film you could only order off the back of an off-brand cereal box, so I say this is a comeback for me. And haven't we had fun? Haven't we? Well, we've nearly made it to the end, and we just have a few more details to cover. Then, after this is all over, maybe I'll win an award for this talent you've had the pleasure of experiencing on the screen before you. When caring for a resident, remember that they're an active participant in their care. In no way should the care feel forced upon the resident. That's why we strive for a restraint-free environment. Restraints can come in different forms, and they restrict a resident's freedom of movement or access to parts of their body. Something is considered a restraint if a resident cannot remove the device themselves upon command or on cue. These can include side rails, bed sheets, and vests. Soft wrist or ankle straps, belts, 2, 3, 4-point closures, wheelchair safety bars, mitts, chairs with lap boards. Restraints require a physician order. Responsible parties must be notified, and this can never be routine. It is only done when properly assessed and clinically warranted. Do notify your supervisor if you observe another staff member using restraints. And remember that continued evaluation of the appropriateness of restraints must always be documented by clinical staff. Don't use a restraint unless absolutely necessary and clinically approved by the physician. Don't restrict a resident's freedom of movement or access to parts of their body. Can you push that call light for me? Many residents can feel confined in the facility. Residents with cognitive impairment, dementia, or confusion are most at risk for elopement, which is when a resident leaves the facility or safe area without authorization or knowledge by other staff. To properly manage wanderings, like, oh, you were a little early for your cue. Anywho, many residents have a diagnosis of dementia. They are cognitively impaired, present with confusion, and sometimes manifest behaviors such as agitation, physical aggression, or wandering. So appropriate behavior management is the key to dealing with residents with dementia, especially when wandering. To manage wandering, you want to avoid agitation and redirect the resident calmly and clearly. I got this. Do approach a resident from the front in a calm manner and tone of voice. Redirect them to a safe and supervised area. Don't startle or rush a resident. It's also important to be aware of a resident's medication and typical activities. Monitor at-risk residents during shift changes. Ensure doors are closed properly when leaving a secure area. Talk with the resident's family to learn about their habits and behaviors. And never share door codes with residents. Our residents may not be doing stunts in an action flick, but residents are at risk for developing facility-acquired wounds nonetheless. This could be viewed as abuse and neglect, especially with residents who are unable to move independently or are confined to a wheelchair or bed. It can also occur with residents who are incontinent of bladder and bowel, have a history of wounds, or have a poor appetite. Residents with diabetes and other medical conditions have a higher risk of developing pressure-related wounds. Do check your residents at least every 2 hours for incontinence or to offer toileting. Properly cleanse residents with soap and water and thoroughly dry them. Turn and reposition residents every 2 hours to prevent skin breakdown. Notify a nurse immediately of any new skin issues like bruises, skin tears, redness, or open wounds. Check the residents' heels routinely as they're easily missed. Don't let residents remain soiled even if they refuse care. In this case, notify the nurse immediately. Well, we've come to the curtain call, the closing credits, if you will. Throughout this journey, I hope you've learned valuable knowledge to help you be the MVP of your facility. Obviously, we don't work in healthcare for the accolades, but they're sure wonderful to receive. Just like this gig, I didn't do it for the acclaim or the potential for an award. Though it would be nice. It's always been a bucket list item to win an Oscar or even a Golden Globe. Well, to be honest, I'm honored to have the opportunity to share my wisdom with you. And I hope you and your residents thrive as you develop your own nuances of care that make a real difference. Oh, you guys, you didn't have to do this.
It was added to your contract before you agreed to the role.
Was it? Oh. Well, regardless, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for becoming a valued staff member of this facility, for the time, talent, and passion you will give to the care of your residents. Best of luck to you as you begin your journey with us. I have every confidence that you'll be an MVP in healthcare, just like me. This award is for you. And if I hadn't already cleared an area off my bedside table, I'd let you have this little guy. Instead, you have my admiration.